Hi everyone, welcome back. Here is lecture 6, the customer value creation mix. Sounds like a mouthful, doesn't it? But let me guide you through why this is a really important part of strategic marketing management. The quote come down here from Gale Consulting is really important. The customers choose now by evaluating which provides them value. That sounds straightforward. What's value? Well, it's really a competing set of factors here as defined: product, service, relationship, image, price, the way they feel about things, and perceived performance and on those factors. The decision is not and has never been just how happy or satisfied somebody is with a service or a product. So here's where we are in the planning process. We're actually now looking at what we're going to offer to the market and how we position that for the market. So previously we looked at selecting parts of the market that might be attractive, starting to think about positioning. Now we're going to look more at what we actually are providing in the offering. So the focus of the lecture is the development, or how do you develop a customer value mix. So we're moving away from the marketing mix now to think about, which you're all familiar with, to specifically looking at what customers value, and we can break that up into various categories, and we'll look at that to the value proposition. This is often also called the unique selling proposition. The development of some strategies that create and communicate and deliver customer value. So the focus now is moving away from the traditional marketing mix, more back to what the customer wants and values and how we can help them co-create that value. So what do customers value? Well, research, which is defined in this diagram below, suggests that there are 4 types of different values, and it's important to remember that some of these values can change with a circumstance. For example, your cost sacrifice value might change to a experiential value with things like, for example, clothing, apparel, or hospitality services. So we'll go through each of these areas, and I'll provide a few examples here. So as I said, there are 4 types of value. The first one, probably a more traditional one, but which has the desired, which a product or a service has the desired characteristics, usefulness, and performance capabilities. Sounds straightforward, but it's a little bit more complicated. Which are the characteristics, usefulness, performance capabilities, and what will people pay for it? Remember, value is what is paying for something in terms not only cost, but in terms of effort and what you get for it. Experiential hedonistic value moves away from what the product or service does to its emotion, feelings, experiences, sensory or epistemic values that it helps create with the consumer. And we'll have a look at that. Services such as tourism often fit into this area. Symbolic expressive value, which the customers attach psychological meanings to products. People pay a lot of money for luxury products, not necessarily because what they functionally do, but the psychological meanings associated to a product. And if you want to think about the price premium of an iPhone versus a Samsung, that may also have something to do with it here. Lastly is what we call the cost sacrifice value, which to maximize or at least realize the benefits derived from a product in terms of cost. So here consumers are trading off to some extent, to a large extent rather, how benefits for costs. And we'll have a look at an example of a niche phone provider in Australia, Amason, and how they do that. Now, while we're all about values, we've really got to be better than the competition. Here's an example, I think from Russia, of a whole bunch of appliance makers, and obviously the consumers are looking for the value that is better than the competition. Now, of course, they can look at the prices, but really how do they know that the values they're getting, the benefits they're getting, are better than the competition at a particular price? There's been quite a nice, interesting paper done here from McKinsey Research, and the reference is just down here, which looks at a medical equipment supplier, and really what they've done is broken down using an approach called choice modeling, which approaches were more favorable for the manufacturer compared to the competitor. And you can see here that the manufacturer is less favorable in price, more favorable in an attribute, performance attribute here. Some of these obviously aren't mentioned, because of commercial in confidence arguments, servicing time, performance attribute B, and so on. So the positioning of the value here should be on these attributes. Hopefully these are important to the consumer that are better than the competitor. Okay. Here's also a sobering view of value. And this is predicting the behaviour of an educational system or the value of a qualification. And it's called the law of zero correlation. When nobody or everybody has a diploma or qualification, it's worth nothing. But when everybody gets to 100%, in other words, you've got what everybody else gets, the value is also zero. And I guess what this shows you is that you may be providing things of high value. And if most of the market has that product, then really the value of that product to them, the instrumental value, is zero, because there's no difference to a substitute. Here's an example of experiential or hedonistic value, which is to do with the experiences and feelings involved in encountering the service. And New Zealand Tourism, for a long time, has run a very successful series of campaigns which are really all about the hedonistic value, the enjoyment of visiting a country like New Zealand. Now, that's just a straightforward ad. What has Australia done? Well, Australia has, with Tourism Queensland, through this example here, provided a social media campaign along with a publicity campaign called The Best Job in the World. And as you'll see here, this very much relates to people's hedonistic experiential values.
Are you looking for work? Well, you may want to consider moving to Australia.
Australia's Tourism Bureau looking to fill what it is calling the best job in the world.
This is Hilda. Luego de trabajar en la paradisíaca. Could this be your new office? Hamilton Island, off the coast of Queensland, needs a caretaker.
Duties include feeding ocean fish, cleaning a pool, and collecting deliveries of mail.
It comes with a rent-free 3-bedroom villa with plunge pool.
All this and a salary of about $8,800 a month. As you might imagine, the regional director said response to the ad has been overwhelming.
Apart from being a very clever way to publicise an extremely beautiful part of Australia, I think what this position reflects is a desire to say to the world, look, this is a wonderful place to come and travel to.
And all you have to do is write a weekly blog.
That can't be right.
There's no catch. This is a real job.
I'll be very good at it.
You have to remember to feed the fish. Video applications, including one from the Vatican. All applicants have to do is submit a 60-second video to this website, islandreefjob.com.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm a police officer in England. You can tell by the silly hats.
I come from the ice tundra of the world.
It's really cold here in Connecticut, and I'd love to go to your paradise.
My dad was the great entertainer, Mr. Dean Martin.
Or do you think all we do is eat sausages and sauerkraut? Well, let me prove you wrong, because I'm definitely not one of them.
Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hoo! Here I am.
Here in the north of Sweden, the sea is covered with ice. So if you want to go snorkeling, you'll need an icebreaker.
So we're going to allow the public to vote for their favourite candidate. We'll pick another 10. We'll fly them across to Hamilton Island for a final interview, and then pick the successful candidate. It's very tempting.
You sign up for that one, huh?
Sounds like tough work there.
Watch the whales.
So they're not here tomorrow.
Excuse me. I don't think so.
Australia.
All right.
Oh man.
Okay, as you can see there, the value of social media and publicity that was worth $80 million extra that was got out of this campaign. And of course, the continued interest in this story shows the example of positioning value, the reason that I might want to come to Queensland or Australia, by having somebody advocate that experience online. Symbolic expressive value is really where the product or service is used to show the kind of person we are or who we'd like to be. And a very good example here is Rolex watches, and I guess Swiss watches generally now. And very nice quote from this presentation here, that the function of a Rolex is to tell you the social status of the owner, right, as opposed to a function of other watches, which is simply to tell you the time. And here, of course, is an example of some advertisement in this area. Now, this is a $6 billion company. It uses restricted distribution, premium pricing. So you can see the positioning of the value mix is really about the symbolic expressive value of the watch. Now, cost sacrifice value is a different approach here. Here we're using our I guess the costs. Now, costs can be hassles or psychic costs or effort, as well as price. And Amason, who are a niche phone provider, mobile phone service provider in Australia, for a long time have run this strategy. And this, of course, is encapsulated in this advertisement with David Hasselhoff.
Tell me, what annoys you today? I thought there must be something. But you know that it doesn't have to be. I got tired of living with hassle, so I got rid of it. Completely. And you can too. With the Mason. No contracts. Unlimited calls to your Mason office. Just pick your data. I had to change my name. All you have to do is change your telco.
Amazing. Amazingly simple.
Okay, so it's simple and it's cheaper and it's easier to use, all right? So the next step, of course, then is to think about, well, we've got a positioning or a value proposition, but to also really focus in on what do our target market, see the previous lecture, of the value, which are the most important, right? So what we do know is that people's decision making is limited to about 5 to 7 criteria, 5 being on the safe side. How well are we delivering the value that we want? We saw that with Tourism Australia, that in the past they haven't had a great track record in delivering that value. So they approached a different approach, as you saw there. They used a different approach rather. What are we doing well on some, or poorly on some of these important value decisions? And you saw on the Amason ad why that was a view that it was cheaper, it was simpler. What was not really shown in previous advertising was actually how less of a hassle it is. More HOF, less hassle. And what are they likely to value in the future? Things change. So the last step then is to really develop some strategies, and you've seen these previously with the design of the Amason service, with the advertising and promotions campaign of Tourism Australia and Tourism Queensland. But also you might look at product portfolio decisions and pricing. So you may have cheaper brands such as the Mercedes Smart Car, which people trade up to. Your pricing decisions, clearly you might use a skimming process for a product which is associated with high social or luxury value. Or you might use penetration pricing, providing something at a cheaper price or more reasonable price in the case of Amason. What are your strategies to communicate value once you've decided on this? And we've seen a number of approaches there. Rolex uses its distribution outlet, its print advertisements, not so much television advertisements. You saw the social media campaign with the best job in the world, and finally you saw the Amason approach. So brand positioning and your integrated marketing communication. So for example, in the Tourism Australia and Tourism Queensland, we saw the important role of publicity as part of that strategy. Engagement and distribution strategies. So across internal and external touch points. So the Rolex the reason of having a limited numbers of stores that sell Rolex is about managing the touch points that people have. Likewise with a Mason, the touch points that people might have in social media or with the call service, call support service, which is based in Australia. So all these things are important. The call service in Australia helps solve problems quickly, hence less hassle, more HOF. So again, these are important parts of the value creation mix. Likewise, we can think about this fairly simply. How do we want to position ourselves on things that we do well? Now, obviously low price and high product quality may be something that's hard to do. And again, we might be looking at where the market is or where our competitors are, and we would choose to position ourselves so that we are away from our competitors but closer to what consumers actually value. Not always easy in this age of globalization, but something that we should always be thinking about. That's it for now. There's a lot more in the textbook and online topics for more information, and I look forward to reading your next assignment.